This party started. I'm on Facebook. Okay, great. Okay, we should be live now. Welcome everybody to Consciousness Conversations with Naren and Raj. We're happy to be back and looking forward to today's conversation. How are you today, Pops?
Pretty good. Pretty good. I'm often or mostly a little busier than I would like. But with all of the new programs happening and the book and everything else, it's all good. It's all good work. So it's good. And I'm really grateful. I have this fucking amazing life, you know. I live in a beautiful, quiet place in this little tin can that I've fixed up to be totally comfortable for me. I love quiet. You know, I'm a quiet freak, and I look out at this fruit orchard in winter, and often there are deer wandering around during the winter because their feed uphill isn't so good, so they're wandering around down here. Sometimes I put out feed for them. And just being able to meditate every morning, you know, most mornings, every day, and the work that's happening for me, being an assistant to people, working with awareness, working with the processes, the practices. It's good. And I was telling you, you know, I just finished the radiation treatment not long ago. And my strength is coming back, and that's really a nice thing to have happen. So I'm good. How about you?
I'm doing well, kind of about the same, you know. When I think about any of the problems that I have, they're not problems compared to what those with real problems have. And I get that it's all relative, but things are going great. Things are going well, making a difference, which is a great motivator. Yeah. And I miss talking with you, so I'm glad we're back on today.
Me too. Me too.
Should we do a little grounding to get ourselves going?
Sure. You know, Osho said, on the big train of consciousness, we're all going to the same place. We're all going to the same place. But that place, enlightenment, is, you know, ambition, trying to get there often gets in the way. And we all get on the train at different places, and we're on the train at different places. And it's really important to accept ourselves where we are and get that not everybody's in the same place with us, and they don't need to be. We're all our consciousness is unfolding as it needs to, and the best we can do is support it. We can either say no to it or say yes to it. support it or go against it. So sit up straight and close your eyes. And for those who hadn't heard me say that before, I'm going to stop explaining it. I say it a lot to everybody I work with. It's about going into a process of some sort. So when you sit up straight and close your eyes, your attention shifts inward. Almost always our attention is shifting outward through the mind and identified with the ego. And when we close our eyes and shift our attention inward and bring our attention to the breath, as soon as we bring our attention to the breath, our body starts to relax. Just letting your attention easily rest on the breath, the rise and the fall of the breath. If it's easy for you, let yourself breathe in and out from your belly. The belly expands with the in-breath and contracts with the out-breath. And as we let our awareness rest on the breath and the rise and the fall of the breath, we're aware of the breath and awareness itself, because the breath doesn't use up all our awareness the way the egoic mind does. We can just be aware of the breath and be aware of our awareness of the breath. Awareness of awareness, Osho described it. Witnessing presence. Just being aware of that space, that awareness, that breath as it expands and contracts, and the space within which that breath occurs. The breath is a bridge to consciousness, because it starts in the body, but it begins and ends nowhere inside the body. There's nothing, we can't really see where breath comes from or where it goes. I mean, before we start the breath and after we let it go, breath just happens. And it's such a wonderful thing to relax into. We can tense the breath by being tense. It communicates to the breath in the body. But when we bring our attention to the breath will relax. It's what it does. Because we relax. And we can just be aware of the breath and the space around the breath. This wonderful space of relaxation. This wonderful space of awareness. Ease and relaxation. Space and silence. It's such a profound gift, this space of awareness. And it's always there, always waiting. Actually, it's not waiting. I mean, it doesn't have any, there's no time in awareness. But it's always there when we come to it. So, just there whenever we return to it, and allowing that relaxation to occur. Such a great gift. And it's where transformation lies. Transformation lies in awareness. Osho said that all that is necessary is awareness, that everything else will flow from that. All meditation is a technique to strengthen awareness, to develop awareness. The techniques I teach are like that. Such a gift. And when you're ready, open your eyes.
Nice. I was just thinking that I'd like to record and segment those, because that takes 5 minutes.
We need to talk about that. I was just talking to a client yesterday who said that basically when it's guided, he can more easily and more deeply go there. Now that's a two-edged sword. That's a two-edged sword because you have to develop your own way. You have to develop your own path, and that happens through practice. But it's also true that sometimes when we're tense or just it's helpful to have that sort of thing. So you and I need to talk about how we can make that happen.
Okay. Great. Yeah, I was just noticing how I've been running around all morning, and I keep saying to myself, okay, stop and just do some breathing, and I don't do it. And how much more effective, how much more at peace, how much more pleasant we can be with others if we just take a minute,
I was dealing with this issue just now with a client. So what is it? What is it that stops you from taking a couple of minutes and having that breath?
What is it that stops me? There's many things I imagine, but there's a conversation of like, I'm too busy.
There's just one thing.
The ego, I guess.
You guess?
The ego.
The egoic mind. But more particularly, it's not the egoic mind, it's our identification with the egoic mind. We are so identified with the egoic mind. So much of it is even below the surface. A lot of it is, these thoughts, got to do this, got to do that, no time, blah, 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 or whatever. But very often, perhaps most of the time, it doesn't even arise to like a consciousness we're listening to. It doesn't rise to the level of words.
Right.
It's just these feelings. It's just these feelings. I'm not going to get it done. I'm not good enough. All this stuff. All of that is the egoic mind, whether it's verbal or below the level of verbal, but it's our identification with it. If we simply shift our attention to the breath for a couple of minutes, when we have the understanding, God, I'm stressed out, I need to do that. It only takes a minute or two to do that and relax yourself. But when you don't do it often enough, when you lose the habit of it, when you become undisciplined in the habit of working it every day, then then busyness takes over. There is some busyness is certainly a reality. Having to get stuff done is certainly a reality. But as you said, you already know that it will help you be more efficient. A lot more efficient, and just take 1 or 2 minutes a few times a day to do it. And yet you don't, because you have this habit. Everybody has their version of it, not just you. I have my own version of it. But every time that you realize that you should bring your attention to your breath and you don't, and you just keep pushing, you're building your relationship with that egoic mind. You're strengthening your identification with that egoic mind, and you're weakening your relationship to awareness. And because it's been
You're weakening your relationship
to awareness.
Sorry. Yeah, to awareness. Okay.
And because it's been a lifetime thing, it's very, very strong. It takes continuous application and really a choice to bring your attention to awareness and to do the practice. And if you don't, you end up where you are now, knowing what you should do and not doing it. And when I say should, I don't mean should in the sense that there's anything moral about it. It's just that if you want to be more relaxed and more effective and you want to wake up, then you simply do it. You know, the thing is that we actually need it the most when we are stressed, when we are busy, when we are anxious. That's when we need it the most. And that's when we tend to use it the least. Right?
Totally.
We like wait till there's more space and we can relax, and then we do the fucking stuff to help us relax. It's really not intelligent. So it's getting that you need to do it when you need it. And also do it when you're relaxed, because it's good practice. But especially when you're a bit stressed out, just to remember to do it. You used to have stuff posted on your computer to remind yourself. Is that stuff still there?
No. Yeah. Gabby's great at integrating screensaver messages and stuff. So yes, I got the message.
Okay, what else?
What else? So associated with that seeming is that we were having, you and I, before we got on the call, we were having a conversation around upset and how if we interact with others through upset, it doesn't lead to anything but more upset. And I also had a conversation with Joan Bordeaux a couple of weeks ago, and she was talking about a landmark seminar that's, can't remember the name of it, but one of the things that she said that they look at there is that we're in a constant state of low-grade upset. And all of these things seem related, and just stopping and doing even a few minutes of breathing and bringing your attention to now all seems like the solution, you know.
It's it's all way too fucking simple.
Mm-hmm.
Osho said, that which you water grows. If you water upset, you get upset. If you water relaxation, you get relaxation. So it's what you support. What's going on in there?
House cleaner is just moving something. Yeah.
So, and I mean, so it's what you water grows. That's what that which you give energy to grows. That which you deny energy to tends to wither. So if you give energy to upset a lot, most of the time, that energy is going to be very, very, very strong in you, that upset, or being easily triggered into upset. If you give energy to relaxation and the techniques that support relaxation, then you're going to generate more relaxation. And, it's an illusion that we're all separate from one another. We're not. So the energy we put out is, it's karma 1A. The energy we put out comes back. Now, even if you're relaxed, I mean, it's not like an absolute in the sense that, if you're dealing with a right-wing Christian maniac, you can be calm, they might still be reactive. But it tends to generate itself. When you're relaxed, it tends to support others in relaxing. When you're relaxed, it tends to support others in relaxing. When you're coming from upset, it definitely triggers other people's upset. And given how our society is, of so stressed and so crazed, and everybody so, not everybody, but most, everybody, not everybody, but coming from fear, coming from desire, which is the culture, which is who we are as human beings, as neurotic, unawakened human beings. And in our world today, it's faster and faster. There's less and less community, less and less caring. On some levels, there's beautiful stuff happening too. But in the overall, there's this incredible jealousy and ambition and all this stuff. And that's where people live. People who haven't done a lot of work, but think they're okay, think they're right, are often very easily triggered. And in today's world, where we're more under more and more pressure, most people are more and more easily triggered. So when we're upset, it triggers other people's upset. At a minimum, if we can stay relaxed or even pretend and act relaxed, then it doesn't feed into that, and there's a better chance of having a more productive interaction.
Mm-hmm.
And it all starts with ourselves, working with ourselves. You can't really work with anybody else's consciousness unless they invite you. To do anything else is violent and stupid and pointless. But you can work with your own consciousness. You can work with yourself. That's where you have the power to relax yourself. And the power to live differently and to live with more awareness.
Yeah, it's amazing how many times in the work that I do with consulting companies, how many times people share how stressed they are and how that then propagates through the whole organization, you know, especially when leaders are doing it.
Sure.
And
that's why this technique, I was working with somebody today and I came up with a new analogy that I quite liked that I'll share with you. This work, these awareness techniques are get out of jail free passes. Because when we're in tension, when we're in all of that conditioning, when we're in the middle of that, we're in bondage to our egoic mind. We're in bondage. We literally bonded, identified, tied. We're chained to that stuff. And when we shift our attention to the breath and come back to awareness in meditation or in the techniques, we free ourselves from that bondage, from that jail. It is our get out of jail free pass, these practices, this space of awareness.
That's amazing. I like that. Yeah. Could you just say a bit more about that, being bonded to your identity or ego?
Well, sure. I mean, I've talked to you about this a bunch.
Yeah.
When we're kids, when we're little kids, you remember from Landmark, you have a break in belonging.
Mm-hmm.
And out of that break in belonging, you start to develop a strategy to how you're going to survive in an environment that is not committed to taking care of you in the way you believe you need. So you develop a strategy. That strategy becomes your personality. That personality is composed entirely out of fear and the desire to make yourself safe. And that's the voices we're always hearing. It's like coming from a 4 or 5-year-old with a polished up strategy. And because we develop that in our egos and in our minds at 4 or 5 years old, we have learned from that time and before to be completely identified with our minds. Once the mind starts activating, we think we are the mind. We think the thoughts are us. We think the words coming about the fear, got to do this, got to do that. We think it's actually us. So we accept it uncritically. But the fact of it is, it's when we step back with any awareness at all to watch it, we recognize that it is fear-driven by a very young part of ourselves. And when it's fear-driven, it's rarely clear and rarely accurate. It's almost never the best way to be or do. So, but we are identified with it. We are bonded to it. And that identification is incredibly powerful because it's been there since we're infants. As we become more aware, start to meditate, start to do whatever techniques we do, whatever makes us more aware, we become more aware of what the mind is. And we become more aware of our bondage or our identification with it and the fact that it's not us. That there's identification, but is not us. The mind is not us. It is a mind. Who we really are is awareness. But we've given our awareness to this conditioning so that it's completely bonded, completely connected. And it takes time and effort and energy and understanding to disidentify from the ego mind, from all of this conditioning, from this fear and desire. And to create space by disidentifying, by shifting our attention to awareness and breath. That's why the breath is so incredibly important. It's a bridge. It's our bridge out of bondage into freedom.
I love that. Our breath. Say it again. Our breath is
our bridge from bondage to freedom. I kind of like that one too. I never said that before. But actually, I have to tell you, I think one of Osho's books is entitled From Bondage to Freedom. So I'm pretty sure it's not original to me. What time is it and what are we doing?
Yeah, it's 1:28. So let's see. I had one more question. Okay. And then we'll see if we have any comments. If not, we'll drop off. So whenever I think of topics to bring into this conversation, I keep coming back to, well, he's just going to say, go to your breath. And you said it earlier today that it's that simple. And so sometimes I wonder, like, why are we even talking?
Because we're so fucking asleep and unconscious. Mm-hmm. We are so fucking asleep and unconscious that getting through to it is very difficult. It takes tons of repetition, and then it takes some openness from the people hearing it. Mostly it just bounces off people. Again, the egoic mind doesn't want us to wake up, doesn't want us to be free. The egoic mind firmly believes that our safety and well-being depends on us, it's staying in charge. And that because it was its strategy to survive and be okay. So it believes that's essential. It is terrified by space and silence. It doesn't want to lose power or control. So it's going to do everything it can, consciously and unconsciously, to dissuade us from waking up, from disidentifying, from creating more space. What we're doing is adding new conditioning. You can't take away that conditioning. We're adding new conditioning to remind us of what the mind actually is and where awareness lies and what it does for us. So the new conditioning, so that we can actually remember that this is what we need to do to wake up. Hold on just a second. There's something wanted to come. Oh, Osho used to have a great story. He used to say he felt a little guilty, which is, of course, not true. I mean, he said a lot of stuff in a kind of a light way, even not nearly as serious and intense as I am. But he used to say, I feel a little guilty because I'm like a doctor with only one medicine. You know, you come to me with your marital woes, and I say, meditate. Or you come to me with a work problem, and I say, meditate. Or you come to me with your basic fear and anxiety, and I say, meditate. So I'm like a doctor with only one medicine. But the reason for that medicine is because one medicine is the only one that works. Because all of those problems come from the same source, our fear and our unconsciousness. So meditation, assisted by, there's lots of different kinds of meditation, but anything that helps us be more aware, for example, the techniques I teach, is the medicine for unconsciousness, to wake up.
Yeah, and then it has me think about all the other modalities of personal growth and personal development, and all the tools that you learn in those things. How do you say that those work in juxtaposition with?
Well, it's impossible for me to deal with without the specifics. Some
So,
of
for
it.
example, yeah.
Go ahead.
Well, like, any of the landmark tools, story, racket, survival strategy, all this kind of stuff.
I've done a bunch of that stuff.
Sure.
And I think Landmark is great. Osho said there's many paths up the mountain, but there's only one mountain.
Mm-hmm.
Standing alone, landmark education is not enough. It's not going to get you there. Because it's fundamentally psychological work. It's about getting to a concept, a core concept, and then exploring that concept experientially so that we actually get that's how we are. And we get it beyond the intellectual, we actually get, oh yeah, that's how I've lived my life. And we learn from that. So we actually, first we get it intellectually, and then we take it into our being experientially. So it's beyond just the mind. Anybody who's done their workshops knows that they have 2 or 3 core concepts that they pound on when they're not trying to sell you on another workshop throughout the course, right? And that's important. Yeah. Because our conditioning has generated a regressive mechanism, a piece of software that we can't replace. We can only work with and add new. It takes reminders. It takes a lot of reminders. It takes work to go deeper with it. And then ongoing reminders as we go forward, which is why even with landmark education, it's not enough. People have to go into some sort of work that has a continued application, such as meditation, so that their awareness and understanding of these ways of being continue to be illuminated by our consciousness. Just intellectual understanding is the next thing to useless. Intellectual understanding with practice so that it goes deeper is useful. But it's all about awareness. Osho said, all that's really necessary is awareness. If we gain greater awareness, if we transform our consciousness and awareness, expand it, then everything else flows from that. Everything else will flow from that. So fundamentally, the name of the game is what expands our consciousness, what helps us to understand better on a level beyond the mind, beyond the intellectual. And that's the standard, I think, to which all such programs have to be held. Now, some are very different. For example, I have a bunch of friends who created something called Path of Love, which flowed out of Miracle of Love. And that's actually very, very strong work. It's like cathartic work. And it's tremendously powerful work and useful because it pounds on places where we are held, and we open up to some old and held emotions. And it's beautiful work. I mean, it's fucking amazing work. But it by itself, it isn't something you can just keep doing. You need to do something with your awareness of what happened to continue supporting your expansion and transformation. That's always the test. Is this supporting my continued transformation? Which is why the whole thing that we do so much of the time is we'll do a workshop, we'll learn some stuff, we'll feel a lot better, we'll have a lot of hugs, and then we'll go back, and a month later we haven't changed much. Continued application and taking lessons deeper to expand awareness is really the essential.
Awesome. Thank you for all of that. And
I wish we had recorded this one.
We did record this one. We record all of them.
Oh, that's right. We should talk about this. What we can do with this stuff.
Yeah,
because
we've been talking about
when I'm talking to you or when I'm giving a session, then stuff just comes up. I don't think about this stuff anymore. I don't think about it. Or if I do think about it, I realize I'm just thinking, and that's not where the truth lies. So when it comes up and flows in a way that is, afterward I go, oh, that sounded pretty good. I'd like to look at ways to capture and share that.
Yeah, great. Let's talk about that, because we can certainly do that. All right. Well, what is our saying to close the day, the show?
Enough for today.
Enough for today.
You gonna have a good weekend?
Yeah.
Nice.
We have some guests come in and a little bit of the Super Bowl.
Oh yeah.
And some space.
Good.
Yeah. So let's just show people, if they want to hear a little bit more, learn a little bit more about what you do and what I do, how they might access us. So if you want to, oh, this has changed now, excuse me.
Yeah, it's Niren Consciousness Coaching.
Yeah, consciousness coaching, great. So if you want to learn more about what Niren offers, his workshops, his programs, his public speakings, his one-on-ones, you can find out about that at Niren Consciousness Coaching, NirenConsciousnessCoaching.com. And, I always rave about the work Niren does, and whether it's me getting stuck or one of my business clients getting stuck, Niren is my go-to guy. And whatever time you can have with Niren will greatly benefit you. So I encourage you to check out his offerings. And anything you want to add to that, Pops?
No, not about me. That was beautiful. Thanks.
Okay, awesome. And
let me say something about you, though.
Sure.
Raj with occasional assistance from me, has generated some processes and approaches that he utilizes in his business, Transformance, that really are building and helping companies scale to become more successful and more efficient. But rather than doing it in the old model with fear and desire, it's done with awareness, to really be more aware of what works, to really be more aware of what you want and what's in the way of what you want. And it brilliantly uses the thing I was just talking about, is continued application, to stay with the process of designing and creating what you want, so that it's actually manifested. And he really has a very high level of success with helping companies get better, in the sense of everybody in the company is doing better work and is happier, and they're making more money. And he does it in a very beautiful, elegant way. Raj is one of the best listeners I've ever known, and he really responds to people. So if you got a business and you would like to grow it and you would like to change the culture to make it a more supportive culture for everybody involved, give him a call.
Brilliant. Awesome. Thank you, Pops. Appreciate that. And if you are looking for recordings of previous shows, you can go to the Facebook page, Consciousness Conversations with Naren and Raj. All the videos, the postings from some of the statements here that we really want you to land and maybe put on your computer desktop or print them out, put them on your fridge, can all be found here as well. So check that out, and also feel free to add comments and questions in there if you want. So we'll be back next Friday, same time. Hope to see you there. And remember, when you think you should breathe and take a little break, do it. All right, everybody, have a great weekend, and hope to see you next week. Bye-bye.